Okay, I'm going to try to go through this in 15 minutes and see what I can share in this short amount of time. Let's start with this one, war. You had your malarial vaccine, possible roles of amyloid in malarial pathophysiology. The main therapeutic and prophylactic tools against malaria have been locked for more than a century in classical approaches of using drugs targeting metabolic processes, then causing the causing agent, the Proteus plasmodium, and of designing vaccines against chosen antigens found on the parasite surface. Given the extraordinary resources exhibited by Plasmodium to escape these traditional strategies, which have not been able to free humankind from the scourge of malaria, despite much effort invested in them, new concepts have been explored in order to advance towards eradication of the disease. In this context, amyloid-forming proteins and peptides found in proteome of the pathogen should perhaps cease being regarded as mere anomalous molecules. Their likely functionality of the pathophysiology of Plasmodium calls for attention being paid to them as a possible Achilles heel of malaria. Yes, she says cattle are 100% infected because they gave them the same infected cell lines. How lucky do you feel? Thank you, Spain, which means all vaccines, GMO, and fertilizer is infectious because you already have Epstein Borreliosis AIDS. And this link... it's a disease-unrelated protein that recapitulates in bacteria key aspects of human amyloid proteinopathies. It undergoes ligand-promoted amyloidogenesis in vitro. Its aggregates are able to seed template amyloidosis on soluble protein molecules. Its conformation is modulated by heat shock protein 70 chaperones in vivo, generating transmissible amyloid strains. It causes proliferative senescence, membrane disruption by amyloidogenic oligomers, and has been found for most proteins causing human neurodegenerative diseases. Here we report that as for PRP protein, it promotes amyloid genesis. Okay. Let's see here. See some more of the comments. Alzheimer's, autism, it's the same thing. Stealth secretions. Dead soldiers, drug-induced lobotomy. Japan calls it morphia. The enemy calls it delusional parasitosis. Let's see. In cattle, they call it treponema phagogenus. In fishes and chicken, they call it magical plastics. People suffering without treatment call it Morgellons. Criminals torturing people call it delusional parasitosis. Stealth doesn't need you to grow. Stealth-infected parasites. As you know, Russia has used TBE vaccines for years and still do. Spirochetal prion proteins are now also infecting the parasites, causing gene-sharing stealth, such as those seen in Morgellons spirochetal disease sufferers. But it's not just in the skin. Segmented filamentous bacteria in ileostomy samples after high fiber intake. This link is the Lyme Net Urate, which has a lot of good information in it. In children's brains, they call it failure to prune synapses. In your heart, they call it lipopolysaccharide-induced conversion of recombinant prion protein. What the people have been saying has been proven over and over. The real cause of AIDS, immune suppression they gave us in vaccines. Why all vaccines are infected, because you are already infected with immune suppressing stealth of Epstein Borreliosis, and also and so-called normal prion protein. Our results indicate that the amyloidogenic proteins, including those contained in foods and cosmetics, contribute to AB aggregation by binding and suggesting their possible roles in the propagation of amyloidosis. And fact is, folks, they always knew and refused to stop killing you all and everything you loved. Folks, giving everything spirochetal disease has grave consequences, not just for you, but for your future. And she links here where they talk about in the Great Lakes plastic fibers. Great Lakes teeming with tiny plastic fibers. She said, interesting. Yeah. They refuse to kill all the morphological forms, not that they can't. This person comments, this is too confusing for the common person. Yes, it is. But she says those fibers aren't plastics, and they knew it. It stacks bacteria and fungus growing in spirochetal prion seed synergy in severe immune suppression most don't even know they have. I was horrified back in 2008 when I saw what the stealth had done, and I haven't seen anyone without some. They coined the term delusional parasitosis in 1954 because they already knew spirochetal disease, and they paraded to help kill everything. Let's see what she says. Exposure to vectors of disease giving you everything they are carrying in your Epstein Borreliosis AIDS your stages. The hostess with the mostest. Social Security will tell you aren't sick because you don't make antibodies in real AIDS. You Americans can only have pretty ribbons to die from. Spiro plasma were stuck to the surfaces by fibrillar threads consistent with curly fibers and amyloid protein found in bacterial biofilms. After a lengthy time in culture, 6 weeks, spiroplasma and biofilm bound to mica discs lost their spiral shapes and formed corcoid forms interconnected by long branch membranous nanotubes therein representing direct conjugate connections between the cells. Like I say, transmissible spongiform encephalopathies in man and animals. It's the candidate causal agent of. These filterable wall-less bacteria are widely distributed in nature with an unspecified environmental reservoir. In this study, we showed that by scanning electron microscopy, that spiroplasma formed biofilm on an assortment of hard surfaces, including mica, nickel, and stainless steel. Spiroplasma were stuck to the surfaces by fibrillar threads consistent with curly fibers. I just read that. Spiroplasma and biofilm bound to mica discs lost their spiral shapes and formed coccoid forms interconnected by long branch membranous nanotubes therein representing direct conjugate connections between the cells. The affinity of spiroplasma biofilms for mica and nickel and the membrane communication suggests that soil could be a reservoir for these bacteria. The persistence of clay-bound spiroplasma in soil could serve as a mechanism of a lateral spread of TSEs by ingestion of soil by ruminants. Spiroplasma binding to stainless steel wire supports by bacterial contamination of surgical instruments following surgery on dementia patients as a mechanism of iatrogenic transmission of TSE, especially with the resistance of spiroplasma and biofilms to drying or exposure to 50% glutaraldehyde. This discovery of biofilm formation by spiroplasma addresses Questions regarding environmental persistence of these organisms in nature and suggest novel mechanisms of intercellular communication. It just gets worse and worse. They don't have the funds or the resources to handle the coccoid morphological forms, the killing fields. And we link here to the epidemic hazard. 406,000 infected, likely all infected. This was an epidemic in Venezuela in 2018. We had 400,000 malaria, 406,000 human confirmed. This is the real pandemic. Bacterial and viruses cause only mild diseases to humans or difficult to contract via aerosol in a lab setting, such as Hep A, B, C, influenza, Lyme, salmonella, mumps, measles, scraping, dengue fever, and HIV. It's just, I don't know design, but if Japan is growing it and you aren't, you die first. While your country's lifeblood is spilling, when do you think is a good time to say no more? 8,000, 10,000, 100,000. How many soldiers and innocent babies must have to die before the people say no more? Traumatic brain injury is the signature injury of recent military conflicts in Afghanistan and Iraq. Again, it goes all back to its Epstein Borreliosis AIDS. In conclusion, it appears that the plasma levels of PRPC may be a novel biomarker for the detection of primary BTVI. This is the LimeNet Europe again. Let's see. Let's go back over here. Magical plastic chickens, fishes, and children. Colony collapsed. Epstein Borreliosis AIDS bees. So it's even in the bees. Spirochetal AIDS disease. Morgellons was the most frequently detected taxon, followed by Enterococcus, Pseudomonas. Well, you get my point there. The honeybee putative pathogen Spiro PLASMA was detected at one site, and Bartonella-like bacteria were found at 4 sites. What you must know is they always knew the real cause and tortured and waterboarded billions to keep murdering everything. This goes into, this is Action Lyme that goes into the OSPA. It's just over 10,000 dead PTSD brain-infected soldiers. She's, linking again all diseases. It all goes together. It's easy. Fungus amyloid causes immune suppression. Fungus from infected organisms secretions contain spirochetal disease that can't be filtered or killed, just inhibited. Mercury used to treat spirochetal disease from the 1400s. They knew they already gave everything Epstein Borreliosis AIDS. That's why you people get fraudulent antibody tests, but your plants are worth mass spectrometry. So you really have to wonder what all is in a filtrate they can't filter out. Anthrax released from 3 CDC labs. Right? Like over 8,000 soldier suicides caused by adding infectious vaccines to the mix, with over 2,000 this year alone so far. And this was back in 2014. More linked back to the